Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. I am Gulo from Jadi PNS, will be your host. Now we are with Rahmina Paullete from Kenya. She is a 16-year-old climate activist and founder of Kisumu Environmental Champions. Hello, Rahmina. How are you?
Hi, Jaya. I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm going good. Thank you so much, Rahmina, for joining us and sharing your story. We hope that your story will inspire more young people globally to change, many actions to make a better world, especially for the climate justice. And Ramina, the first question, where were you and how old were you when you first realized you wanted to advocate for climate justice?
Well, this one takes me back to 2016 when I was 11 years old, since I'm an indigenous person from the Lake Victoria. And my tribe is called Luo from Kenya. So I realized that there's a lot of hesitance in correlating with the environment, at the same time creating possible solutions. So for this one was kind of a little bit on, since I love going for boat rides and it has been my hobby since I was young. So for this time, it was kind of a little bit different. So that time I had gone with my mother because it was our leisure time and we used to spend weekends on going for boat rides. But this time we couldn't go because of the water hyacinth that was all over the lake. But with the curiosity that I had, plus the depressing moment as a young child being declined not to go to the lake for a boat ride, and being informed by a fisherman was actually so deteriorating, and I felt a little bit so much overwhelmed. So from this, I was curious enough to know like what are these weeds. So from that, I realized that from doing the research, that water hyacinth is actually not only a problem for the transport systems in Lake Victoria, but also a problem to the aquatic life, which is choking the fish because it is avoiding the oxygen from entering the water body. So I was like, why not use this water hyacinth weed to create a solution? So from that solution, I had also come up with another idea of making papers from cards from recycled waste papers. Since waste paper are being burnt, that means that you are also contributing to carbon footprint, the carbon emissions to the atmosphere, hence leading to climate change and global warming. So from that, I've been able to advocate for climate justice in terms of creating more eco-friendly space for young people, at the same time advocating for biodiversity. So these are some of the products that you make, the cards, and there's the sling bags, and there's the bags for women.
Wow.
Yeah. So for this, we don't have to cut a tree to make papers or cards. So we can just use the waste papers to make cards and papers to reduce the emissions of carbon, since we are saving the carbon sinks, which are trees. So by that, I've been able to become the voice of the people from the Lake Victoria through my campaign, Let Lake Victoria Breathe Again, which is aiming to restore the ecosystem of Lake Victoria through doing cleanups and growing trees along the riparian lands.
Wow, Rahmina, thank you so much. This amazing story when you were 11 and you launched a campaign called Lake Victoria Breathe Again. And then we are wondering, what does climate justice mean to you?
What climate justice means to me? Climate justice is more of a defined word on amplifying the voices of the people from the marginalized communities and getting to advocate for change in system regards to the climate crisis, since the climate crisis is actually affecting us. So by this, the climate justice will be able to act as a shelter and a safe space for people who are suffering the most from the climate crisis, and to be advocating for the lives of both the biodiversity, which is the animals, and the human being species.
Great answer. Thank you. And then in 2021, at the annual summit called Conference of Parties or COP26 in Glasgow, United Kingdom, you were among the Kenyan delegation led by the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta. What was that like?
Well, actually, it was an amazing thing since most of the people from the most affected places and areas from the global south countries don't get to go to such summits because they lack representation, like the people from the indigenous people, there's the black people, people of color that are denied of perhaps opportunities or rather face more major risk to going to those summits. So I feel like as a Kenyan delegate, I was the youngest Kenyan delegate to go there.
Wow.
Yes. So it was really an honor to be led by our president, Uhuru Kenyatta, because we believe in this world we need to make a change and we need the leaders together, the policymakers and us ourselves to be involved in such summits so that we may give out our opinions and thoughts so that it might be included in the policy strategies or in the climate adaptation measures of which will lead to a better world together.
Perfect. And as the youngest delegate in the COP26 from Kenya, what makes you confident to be among the leaders?
Well, I think what makes me to stand out is probably my age. But age is just a number, although it's really so much special because I haven't seen much young people like me going to such summits, most especially from continent like Africa. So I think that's a really good show for the African continent. Then I feel like it is a really good thing. And by going there alone to make my voice to be heard on the climate crisis, it actually gives us that confidence in me. And I know that once at the end of it all, my people back in my country or even in the global south countries will be able to enjoy the fruits of the dialogues that we are doing there on the climate issues.
Perfect, Rahmina. Thank you so much. And now you are studying as the grade 11 student at Kisumu Senior Academy in Kenya. How do you tell your classmates at school about climate change?
Well, most of my classmates and schoolmates, they usually come to me and ask me a lot of questions. And one of them is how to address climate change because they are really seeing, like right now, they're getting to see the impacts of the climate crisis because they can actually feel them. So they're like, why not come together so that you may make great solutions? Like in my school, currently I am the senior environmental prefect in my school. So they usually give me time in the parade to speak on climate issues. And I've been able to engage my fellow classmates and schoolmates on issues concerning to the solutions to climate change, like even hosting workshops together with my school, doing entrepreneurial skills, and some of the things like kitchen gardening and having clubs, because we have clubs. We have an environmental club in my school. So by that, we are actually creating awareness to young people, such as my fellow students. And I always tell them something which is really important. Yes, education matters, but how you're going to use your education is really important. So I ask them, even in your career, I hope that you will be able to use your education to fight for climate justice, to fight for environmental justice, to advocate for environmental conservation and preservation of wildlife, species, and habitat, taking care of the ecosystems. So that's how I usually tell them, and they have been inspired. Like right now, if you go to my school, we have separate bins for waste management, for plastics. We have also done some growing of trees session in our school for the entire school, if you can imagine. We have some of the things like cemented seats where concrete seats where we could enjoy the breeze and also the shade of the trees. So I think it has really made this my fellow students and classmates to be able to understand more of the climate issues and to be part of the solution.
Wow, great. That's how a very young age, grade 11 student telling, the classmates about the climate change. And it's still a very young age. How does it feel to be a female climate activist?
Well, actually, as a female activist, I feel a lot of joy within me, although there have been a lot of challenges being a female activist because we are actually looked down upon by people, especially men who are men or male, I could just say, because of the high rates of chauvinism, which is like probably selecting or favoring one gender and supporting them. So I think it's really a little bit challenging as female activists because let's say, for example, if you look at the past, like even the African perspective, for women and women and females are just considered as good for marriage, or you should be studying or doing anything career. So I think that there's a lot of issues in terms of changing their mindset, but as a female activist, I hope that I'll be able to influence young females or even other females to not be afraid of the issues, the current issues. They should actually be speaking and being outstanding, because we believe that if we could empower ourselves and make our voice to be heard as female activists, then we'll be able to change the whole mindset of the future generation to come. And actually, as a female activist, I am really so much honored and privileged to be running an organization called Kisumu Environmental Champions, which is a key team group that focuses on environmental conservation, wildlife conservation, and climate change advocacy. We have managed to do some projects such as cleanups, growing trees along the riparian lands of Lake Victoria. We have also done creation of awareness to the community. So by that, I think we are, as females, we are put on the front line, and we should be there up there speaking about like how it has really affected us, because the climate crisis has actually affected many females and women, especially women. You could see in a place that is really it's really exposed to droughts, so women are not allowed to work or anything. So I think this could also inspire more women to come up towards these climate issues so that they might be able to empower themselves and also give their voices out and give out suggestions and opinions and be part of the seats, the big seats where they get to speak about climate issues and how we're going to address it, so that us as female activists and environmentalists, we can be able to enter those spaces and be part of the people who are going to make a drastic change in this world.
Amazing. And then you are down to the street with hundreds, even thousands of young people to advocate about the climate justice. How do you engage and mobilize those people?
Well, most of the people who are actually always joining us are the environmentalists and climate activists. Then the community right now is being drawn by this climate action works, because we're actually facing the climate crisis and it's not going. Perhaps if we do something much greater to it. We have tried engaging more people in terms of social media. I think you've heard about the social media campaigns that people are doing. Like for me, I'm engaged with Food at COP. I'm the focal point of the Global South countries in Food at COP. Food at COP is a campaign, international campaign under Yongo, which is advocating for plant-based meals to be served in climate conferences such as COP26. But this year we're going to do another campaign, which is Our Plants, Our Culture, which is aiming to advocate for African indigenous vegetables to be served in COP27 since it will happen in Africa. And do you believe that by the little steps that you take, will be able to get attraction from people and the global audience? Because food@corp is actually some of the traits that gets us back to our grassroots. Like taking the indigenous vegetables is really nutritive, and it has its own type of, can give out herbals and all those things. Then plus it also reduces the amount of emissions because we're taking less meat. So that means that you'll be able to be part of the climate solutions. Another thing is, I think most of the young people have been able to join us, like the strike that we did outside COP26 as Fridays for Future, MAPA and Fridays for Future. We're able to get many people to join us, which was actually hilarious, since we had, I think, 100,000 people and more. I couldn't even count, it was so countless. So I think we were able to get them through the work, since we are both exposed to different platforms, and many people like reach out to us, they want to join in. So from that, we get to connect and come up with many great ideas and strikes to advocate for climate justice.
Wow. And then what is your message for young people out there about climate change?
My message to the young people is that do not forget where you come from. Look about what's happening currently in your place and rethink. As a young person, age doesn't matter, but what matters the most is what you contribute to your community. So be the change. And I love saying this slogan to young people. Change starts with us, for us, and by us. In 5 minutes, we could clean up a place so that the waste does not end up to the river streams, then to the water body. That means that you'll be saving the aquatic fish. We can grow a tree of which after 15 years, we can be able to see the fruits, you can enjoy the fruits, or even someone else in the next generation will be able to have shade. In 5 minutes, we can be able to mobilize people in a global climate strike, which will lead to the attention of leaders and policymakers. And in 5 minutes, you can be you and you can change your community. So it all lies on our capability and strength within us. And that's all that matters.
Wow, that's amazing. And then, what is your hope for a better world?
Well, my hope is that we'll be able to focus more on the climate adaptation measures, more than the climate mitigation measures. Since according to the IPCC report, the working group 2 had mentioned about cutting off the emissions by 35% in the next 8 years or 7 years by 2030. I think we really need to do much more. And I hope that for us as well, we should not work in that time framework that we've been given. We should actually do more at the recent times, so that we might have more net zero carbon, devices, more solutions. Like we should actually use more renewable energy. So by that, I think my hope is that the next generation will be able to enjoy the things that we haven't yet enjoyed, what our ancestors used to enjoy. Like let's say here, for instance, here in Lake Victoria, we used to have like more than 1,000 indigenous fish, but right now they're like 30. If you can imagine, I haven't eaten some of the indigenous fish or seen the indigenous fish from the Lake Victoria that my ancestors used to take. So if you can imagine, by the time that it reaches to the next generation, how it will become like extinct. This is because of the harmful substances that we are exposing to the ecosystems. And if we could be able to work more together and formulate more policies and work on them, I think that our world will be the world that we're looking for, which is a very green world, full of biodiversity, preserved ecosystems. Then I think that we'll be achieving a lot, where there'll be more population growth, there'll be more people people who are living towards, renewable energy and solar powers. So giving out, possible solutions on the green economy, enhancing green economy, at the same time looking towards urbanization, but now focusing much more on the green economy. That would be a better place for us. And I could believe that we could do this. And as the slogan by the former president of USA, of what he said, yes, we can. And I believe, yes, we can. And in African perspective, we say Ubuntu, meaning unity. So Ubuntu. And as a Kenyan, I'd like to say pamoja tunaweza. That means together we can.
Thank you so much, Rahmina, for your inspiring story.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us. Let's collaborate to make this world into a better place. I'm Gulo from Jadi PNS. Thank you and see you again.
Asante.